Hey everyone! Before we open today's file, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at d.s.radio, where you can find all the images that go along with today's case. You can drop us an email at contact.dsradio@gmail.com. You can find all of our socials in the Linktree bio on our Instagram profile, including links to merch. If you're feeling especially generous, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio, where you can get access to our exclusive Instagram page and make suggestions for upcoming episode topics that you would like us to cover. Speaking of Patreon, thanks to our Patreons, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Cash Broadus, Raspberry Jr., Jason R. Nelson, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Michael Laughlin, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Greer Weaver, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibbon, Drake Holvig, Only Child, Michael M, Wesley Akers, Riaz K, Emily Medeiros, Pip, Heather Wynn, Graves, Devon Sweatshirt, The Ordained Sinister Minister, and Philip Hoffman.
Hello everybody and welcome to this very special Brucey bonus edition of Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your second favourite host, Chris.
Oh, I'm sure you're the first, but I'm Linz. Hello.
Hi everybody, and we thought we'd put out a bit of a little extra edition today. It's a bit of a grab bag of different things. Some feedback today, some questions that were thrown at us quite last minute on Instagram. And also, I want to tell you a story about the time that I was almost nuked by North Korea.
What? Okay, I haven't heard this. I can't wait to hear this.
Well, you've got to wait. You've got to fast forward to the end of the episode.
God damn it! I can't do that. I'm recording it. I could always black out.
So to begin, Linz, I thought, why don't we take a look at some of the feedback that we've had since about a month ago when Gen Y gave us that awesome shout out and things kind of, what do you say, exploded?
Yeah, definitely, because we went from, actually, we did a little bit okay on our own for a new podcast, but as soon as Generation Y shouted us out, all of you guys came over and you've been consistently listening, which I'm really impressed and happy about, that you've stuck around after hearing us babble on for one episode, so thanks so much. And we have had a lot of nice comments, which I think Chris is going to read out.
We've got a few here. We've been inundated with new listeners, feedback, reviews and ratings, and it all helps us grow. So thank you to everybody who's helped out so far. If you haven't left us a rating, please do so on your podcast platform of choice. Just make it 5 stars.
Please, please, please. And thank you to everyone who has so far. Like, that's a little bit of an effort you've made. So I'm really impressed and happy and grateful. So thank you. Oh, I can hear Chris's newborn little alien in the background there. Very cute.
He is. He's babbling away. So you're going to get a bit of a preview into my life here at the moment.
But that's what this episode is all about. Or so I hear. Chris is kind of presenting this to me today. So, oh.
Right. So, Linz, you've got a little bit of feedback in front of you. So would you care to read out the first one for us?
Of course, my horse. Okay, so the first review or feedback says, I love the wide variety of subjects tackled in the show, from the paranormal to true crime and straight up bizarre stories from history. But the thing that sells it for me is the unbelievably adorable banter between the hosts. They clearly are having the time of their lives, and you can really tell that they're great friends. And that's from Septembrio, who I love, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Septembrio. It's really nice to hear. I mean, I was counting before. I think we've been friends for 19 years now, Linz.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. It does, like, you are, like, my oldest and most treasured friend, I think. Not that you're, like, 90 or anything. But not in that way. You're not like Gandalf, but yeah, like seriously, we've, like you said before, like even when we live in different countries and different continents, like we still, when we like meet up again, it's like, you know, there was never any time in between. So it's a great friendship, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. It's consistent, and it's been a constant for the last 19 years. And now I'm really happy to say, Linz, that we finally have a way to monetize it.
Mine was like totally heartfelt, and yours was like ka-ching. By the way, we don't make shit off this, so
no.
don't take that seriously at all.
One day.
That would be amazing. But yeah, it's just the joy of it, honestly.
So let me pull the next one out of the bag here. And this one says, "Oh, I really wanted to like this pod.
Oh.
But instead, I love it.
Ooh.
I feel that episode 1 was not really the first, though. Is there a missing one we didn't get, or maybe the order was changed after the fact? Nice accents that's pleasing to this American's ear. Really want to hear more obscure mysteries too, please. This was recommended to me from another podcast, and that's from Nullity."
I love that comment, and also it gives me PTSD again. It's because that wasn't the first episode, so really good that you picked up on that, because the first episode we had to record, I want to say 4 times.
I think 4's being kind. It was more than that.
Really? Oh god. Okay, I've definitely blocked that out. But I'm gonna spoil what it was, because I think, why not? It was on one of my favourite unsolved cases, the Somerton Man. It's a man who was found on a beach, and he had no tags in his clothes, no ID. Nobody knows who he is, who he was, where he came from, or really what even happened. And it's my favourite, one of my favourite cases. I now say one of my favourite cases because that was a really bad experience of recording on terrible $20 Amazon mics and over the internet with terrible Wi-Fi connections and my awful old laptop. And yeah, that's not the case anymore, thankfully, but we will cover this case in the future. Yes. We will. We've talked about it. We think it's been long enough. Now that I'm saying it, it doesn't feel like long enough. We're going to do it anyway.
So officially, what you see on the feed is episode 1. We just kind of launched into it. We didn't do an introduction episode or anything like that because...
We're noobs, man.
We're noobs, sorry. Yeah. And to be honest, we didn't actually think anybody would listen to this. So the fact that people are is fantastic. We will go back and redo that episode for the reason being, as Linz just said, it was recorded on a potato. And
that's an insult to potatoes, yeah. Honestly.
I tried listening back to it the other day and yeah...
what did you describe it as? You described it as an old Nokia brick phone or something.
Yeah, an old Nokia brick phone that's been like left to corrode for 1,000 years.
Come out of a tumble dryer or something. Yeah.
So there are no missing episodes from the feed, but
no.
Bob's abduction ball story is the first canonical episode of Dystopian Simulation Radio. And speaking of which, this is not really a full comment, but we had a prompt on Instagram from Rizak, who asked us if we were ever going to show our faces. And now we have. So
we did.
Head over to our Instagram page at d.s.radio to take a look at our spooky mugs. But I thought we might just give a quick, short introduction to ourselves as well.
Maybe I'll go first because...
We agreed that before this recording of this episode, so you're going to go first.
I was trying to make that sound natural. But honestly, yeah, I'll go first because, I like to ramble and I have a lot of hobbies. So we'll get this out of the way. All right, so my name's Linz. I was born in the northeast of England, like Chris. But I have lived in various places, including Bangkok, and I've done a fair bit of traveling. I think this is the most important... Yeah, I think this is the most important part. I became an official Pokemon master at the age of 12. Did you know that, Chris?
No.
I beat the editor of Nintendo Magazine UK in a Pokemon battle. He totally didn't have to contractually lose to children, I'm sure. I was transferred to Mew after winning, and I still have that bitch on an old Game Boy Pokemon Blue cart somewhere. That's probably the biggest achievement in my life. Shout out to my level 100 Blastoise. Couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, I like Pokemon, and I'm currently playing Legends on the Switch.
Man, I had no idea about that.
You didn't?
No, man.
Pokemon Master, officially.
You're keeping that under your hat for a while.
I know.
19 years.
All right, so I blog for the Generation Y podcast. That's probably where you know us from. Shout out to them for being the best. You can read my blog post for them at genypod.com. They come out every Tuesday. I also wrote a book last year titled Have You Seen This Person? It's 10 real cases of missing people, a couple of which amazingly have actually been solved. I'm really into photography, digital and analog. I'm shooting on a sprocket right now. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me open the box, which has been factory sealed since the 90s, so I huffed some 90s air on Instagram stories. I recently scored a Kodak Brownie from this secondhand church shop in the south of Sweden. I'm going to be cleaning that up, attempting to shoot on that soon. I collect antique photography, so like Card to Visit. I even have some Victorian pornography in my collection. It's weird as hell. I went to Catholic school and I'm obviously godless now, but I'm really interested in stories of demonic possession and hauntings, and I love cemeteries. And I also volunteer hunting down graves for families, researching their ancestry. So if you follow my Instagram, you probably know that already. My personal Instagram is ghost.ghost, only the O's are zeros, because I'm a loser. And yeah, that's me. Who are you, Chris? Or do you have any, did you learn anything new about me?
I didn't know you were a Pokemon master.
Come on, of course I'm a Pokemon master.
I mean, I knew you were like a how can I say, like a backroom Pokemon master. Like,
what does that mean?
Well, I knew you know.
You mean amateur?
Yeah.
Like backyard wrestling, backyard Pokemon tournaments.
Exactly, but I didn't know you were like legit.
I'm legit, man.
So yeah, my name's Chris. I am also from the northeast of England. This is probably the most important thing that I've done, sort of professionally, in my life, if you will. I'll give you a brief history. I grew up here. I didn't go to Catholic school. I went to just a regular, normal school.
Boring.
I know. No nuns whipped me, no matter how much I asked for it.
It's funny because it's true. Got hit with the Bible. That's a big book, you know.
I mean, both testaments.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, across the head.
No wonder you have trouble sleeping.
With me. Yeah, it's probably what's wrong with me. Anyways, sorry, proceed.
I lived in England for a good number of years, and then I moved over to Japan, where I was an English teacher at high school for 5 years, and then I've come back to the UK and regretted it ever since. And
no,
I haven't written a book that's been published. I have got half a book that's sitting on my hard drive that I should probably pick up again. Maybe we'll do something ourselves in the future together as dystopian
definitely.
Simulation bookie, yo.
A book of the unexplained. Oh, I used to love that kind of thing as a kid.
Yeah.
I'd love to make a modern one. It would be so good.
And in my personal life, as you know, I've just had a son. You heard him a little while earlier babbling away there. I like to get out and do paddleboarding whenever I can. I'm lucky to live by the ocean, and I try to enjoy it whenever it is not bloody cold, which is none of the time. I'm also into my video games as well. I used to be super into Pokemon when I was a little bit younger. I haven't picked it up in a few years, but
were you a master though? Were you a master?
Well,
though,
I never battled the editor of Nintendo Power. No. But I did once go on a whim to the Nintendo headquarters in Japan.
What? And you said this was the most important thing you ever did. Lies.
This is the first time I went to Japan when I was traveling around, and I looked on the map and it said Nintendo. And I went, oh, that must be where Nintendo is. That's not too far away. And I'm not very good at reading the scales of maps.
You were like, that's just 3 fingers away.
So about 2 hours later, I arrived like outside this like chained gate, sweating the gills off myself because it was like August and it's incredibly hot. And I was like, oh, there's an office building.
Oh no.
And then I just turned around and went to the station.
I was about to say, did you just show up to their general office? That's honestly the funniest shit I've heard all week. What did you think you were going to find? Like, don't they have Pokemon centers there? Have you been to a Pokemon center?
I've been to many Pokemon centers, yeah.
Oh, I haven't been to any. I need to go to Japan.
Gone and got my my various Pokemon healed there.
No, I mean the Pokemon centers in Japan, the shops.
Yeah, that as well.
Oh my god, I want to go so bad. I have to go to Japan with you.
Well, anytime, man. I've got a on my phone charger. I've got a Squirtle.
Oh, I always start with Squirtle on red and blue.
100%. That's
Squirtle all the way.
The professional pick. So that's pretty much me, I would say. Anything else you want to know about me, Linz?
I want to know. I was about to say we both love film. We didn't mention that. We both studied film at college, and we both love film so much. Like specifically like horror but mostly like all kinds of film. We love film.
I mean, I remember when we watched all sorts. I mean, I remember film noir is a big one that we used to watch together.
Yes.
A lot of that stuff. Obviously, as you said, a lot of horror, thriller, action movies, generally just anything. Really,
we love film. Both of us. We really related on that back in the day too. So
definitely. So
and music, we both love. We're both big Misfits and Ramones connoisseurs. So like some old school punk stuff like that. Like. I think we went different ways recently, but always that old school punk rock at the core. So yeah that's us.
Yeah. So Linz, could you read the next comment, please?
If you want to listen to an odd podcast hosted by a woman with the greatest laugh of all time and Benedict Cumberbatch's audio double, this is the one for you. I'm so glad, like I'm always really conscious about my laugh because I like laugh all the time. I've tried to stop doing it. And I can't. Like, I've really tried, but I legitimately just find things funny, and I can't not laugh.
I don't think you need to, man.
Yeah, but I always just feel like, God, that's probably really annoying. It's an annoying laugh, and I do it all the time, and I can't not do it. You know what? This is kind of funny, because I think I saw this comment, and it was from someone in Sweden.
Yes.
And when I was coming over here on this trip, I met a Swedish guy on the plane who started talking to me. Like, he was sitting next to me. And we were like talking about podcasts and stuff, and we listened to some of the same ones. And I gave him the card. I shamelessly do this all the time. I put that business card everywhere. I just think it's funny that someone at that random place might listen to it. But I gave him a card, and I think this might be him. I don't know if it is, but if you're listening, please DM us at d.s.radio. That guy was cool, and I just like to imagine that was him.
Well, if it is, let me just say that comment is straight up racist.
What? Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, you sound nothing like him, but I suppose to someone who doesn't speak English as a first language, or like even an American might be like, ooh, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Everybody knows that I sound like a budget Hugh Grant, not Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. What a name. Like, I can't believe someone is called Benedict Cumberbatch.
I've never heard that surname before in my life.
Never, ever. It's the weirdest name. And he looks like one too. Like, if you look at the guy's face and you think, what would he be called? That is the only name he could have.
So, moving on to the next comment here. Mm-hmm. You guys are quickly becoming my most favourite podcast. Thank goodness that Gen Y pointed you out. Keep up the good work. Any chance of doing any south of the equator cases, like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, or anything like that? Looking forward to the next episode. Love from Massachusetts, USA, Angie to MMA.
Yay, thank you. I actually have a case in that vicinity coming up. Not in a couple of episodes, probably.
Sweet.
Well, a few, because we take turns at writing them. So a couple for me, a few for you guys. But there's definitely something incoming.
Yeah, we're certainly open to doing cases from that area of the world. It's something that we'd probably like some of your guidance on. So if you know of an interesting topic that's south of the equator, please let us know. And you never know, we might take it up as a topic.
I definitely will. Like, every time someone suggests something, I'm like, yep, doing it. So please, like, email us or drop us a DM or a comment. And if you want us to cover something or look into something more in depth that you're, like, curious about, please just ask us and I'll probably get to it at some point if there's enough info out there, so go for it, please. So the next comment says, got to thank Gen Y for the recommendation, and boy, they were right. Have now gone back to the start as I can't get enough of dystopian simulation radio. And that's from Andy in London. Thank you so much, Andy. It's always nice to have some people from the UK comment as well. Gen Y really, really, really helped us out. Thanks, Gen Y. Love you guys so much.
We owe so much to Gen Y. They gave us such a boost, and I couldn't I don't know how we can thank them, really.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell them, and they probably find it really awkward, but they're like such a positive thing in my life, like Gen Y. They really are. It's been several years now, I think I've blogged for them, and I've met them in person at CrimeCon only last year. And yeah, they're just great. They're hilarious, nice people, and yeah, the pioneers of the true crime podcasting world. So
It's so cool.
Love to have them on side, love to know them. And obviously their podcast is amazing, so...
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. I hope I have a chance to meet you in person one day, maybe at CrimeCon or something like that in the future. So this is from Lindsay, but not you, Lindsay, but a different person called Linz. This person says, I think the best part is the genuine friendship between Chris and Linz. I love it. All great topics and great and hilarious banter. So thank you very much, Lindsay, the other one. You've been a really great supporter of the show, and we've loved interacting with you, so thank you for all of your messages and support so far.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think it's really nice when you listen to podcasts and the hosts and know each other, and yeah, I guess that's kind of like Gen Y too, like Justin and Aaron, they're longtime friends, like they said when they shouted us out, and so are we, and I think there's something very listenable about it, you know, like I like that kind of podcast too. So I'm so happy that people enjoy that about us and that they can feel the friendship through the episodes, which is really cute and wholesome. And yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay. So the next one we got via email, it's from Nicola, and she said, I love your content. It feels like a big gap in the podcasting world, and it fills that need for me to listen to weird tales like I read in the Fortean Times magazine, but a lot more fun. That's a really nice comment.
It is. It's a short extract, actually, from a much longer and really lovely email that she sent to us this week, and that's very high praise that you're heaping on us there. Don't set the bar too high, please.
Set it high. Give us aims. I need reasons to live. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that's really nice. Like I often look for podcasts like this too, like Fortean Times style, like stories. So I suppose I'm really happy that comes across. Actually, that's kind of what I look for, like strange stories, like, you know, hoaxes, paranormal, alien stuff. And it's not to say that, you know, we believe every single thing that we make an episode about, but it's very fun to look into and research. And yeah, everyone can make their own choices at the end of it. So I really appreciate that comes across. So thank you, Nicola. That's awesome.
Okay, the next one and the final one that we have today is also via email from Livy, who said, I found DSR last week after catching up on a couple of Gen Y episodes. I just wanted to say it is brilliant. The chemistry and obvious friendship you both have for each other really comes across, and your ability to lighten up some dark stories really makes the show fun, interesting, and somewhat unique. Long may it last. Well, thank you very much, Liddy.
And speaking of Livy, I read this. This was from an email, and you sent me the screenshot of it over. And Livy suggested a case that he'd like us to look into. And I just want to let him know that I'm looking into it as we speak. Not as we speak, but I'm looking into it right now, and I'm researching it, and I am covering that case. So it's coming out. That's just a secret shout out to Livy. He knows what I'm going to be doing the episode on, but nobody else does. But it's a very interesting, I've never heard of it, and it's definitely my style kind of episode. So thanks, Livy, for the suggestion. Yeah, I really love it when people send suggestions, especially ones I've never heard of. Like the case Livy suggested is great, and it's local to me and Chris, so that makes it even more special.
Yes, exactly. Not too far from where we are. Well, quite far from where you are. You're in Sweden right now.
But yeah, it's local to where we actually live, so soon.
So let's move on to the quick Q&A session. I just put something out very, very quickly just before we were recording this, asking for any questions. We had a handful of them back. Okay, so the first one comes from It's Pip, by the way.
Love them.
Yeah, you're awesome. And they say, favourite creature that could be a cryptid but isn't.
Ooh, okay. Chris, you showed me this question previously, before we recorded, and I actually have a few contenders here for the crown. Okay. And I actually want us to do a vote on the Instagram stories to crown the winner of potential cryptids.
Sweet,
but
cool.
First contender for the crown is Pelusa, the purple polar bear.
Is that just a regular old polar bear that's purple?
Kind of, yes. That's the first thing that came to mind when you asked me this question. So Pelusa is this polar bear who lived in Mendoza City in a zoo in Argentina, and she's no longer with us, but there's these photos from 2003 where they sprayed her with this medication to treat her dermatitis, and it turned her purple. So I want to send you a picture, Chris, and you can describe it to the people. I don't think you need to. It's basically what it says on the tin. But
Okay, that is extremely purple.
yeah, it's saturated.
So essentially, this is, as I hypothesized before, a regular old polar bear that is luminous purple.
Yes. Feel sorry for it, to be completely honest, but first thing that came to mind. Okay, second one. This one is also a bit sad, maybe a bit funny, not sure. Okay, so it's the one-footed snake. It's a mutation, as you probably guessed. And it was beaten to death by the Chinese woman who discovered it in China in 2009. She beat it with her sandal and preserved it in a jar. So it's not funny, but it sounds funny. But I'm going to send you the picture. One-footed snake incoming.
Oh, hello.
Now, I have to preface this and say I've done zero research on this. It's just something I saw a long time ago, and I thought it worked. And I don't know how this is possible.
So essentially, for everybody, this is an ex-snake, which is lying kind of dead on the floor, and what looks to be a chicken's foot emerging from its side. It essentially is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a snake with one foot.
Now, I don't know if I can believe this, because you know when you like travel around in Asia and you see, well, Southeast Asia specifically, I guess, and you see these bottles of like snake wine and scorpion wine, and they're all, although this is on the ground and not in a bottle preserved, like I feel like it can't be a thing, because I don't know how a snake can grow a leg. So I feel like it's been grafted on, but the part of its body where the leg is growing is kind of fatter, which is strange.
Well, it is, but it looks like it might have swallowed something recently as well. So
And it tried to escape.
Oh yeah, I'm wondering if it's sort of, I don't know. It looks like a chicken's foot versus
yeah, it does.
A reptilian foot.
A reptilian foot?
It's not webbed.
No, I thought you were talking about the aliens.
Oh,
yeah.
right, sorry. No, don't talk about those guys.
Reptilians feet. But yes, another good contender for something that should be a cryptid.
Any others on your list?
Oh god, yes. I have a few more. This one is adorable. Pink fairy armadillo. Have you ever seen one or heard of it?
No, I have not.
Just adorable. And to be honest, it's too pure for this earth. And if it was a cryptid, it would probably glow and grant you a wish. Chris, this is honestly a treat. If you have never seen one, you are about to just, melt probably. Look at that. And describe it to the people, please. Oh. I know.
That is a miniature armadillo. Looks to be about the size of...
Hands for scale, Chris.
Oh, there you go. So it's about the size of a human hand, roughly. It is essentially just a miniature version of an armadillo. It's tiny, it's pink, and it's got little frilly bits, little fringing around its base.
Absolutely adorable. My favourite creature ever, probably. Okay, next on the list, we have a contender for something that should be a cryptid. Swan Man.
Swan Man?
Swan Man. Are you ready?
Yes.
These are all going to be on the Instagram stories at d.s.radio, and you can vote for which one you think should be a cryptid. Swan Man, I present to you, Chris.
Okay, I have seen this one before. So this is a wildlife photographer who has customized a tent into looking like a swan in order to get close to the meat to snap pictures of various flora and fauna without disturbing them.
So it's basically like a white pop-up tent with a sort of papier-mâché swan's neck and head, and a small gap with a man's face looking out and his camera sticking out the bottom. It's a National Geographic photographer, but I like to just think of it as the cryptid Swan Man. So he's another contender. Okay, second to last we have, on my list, Cyclops Kitty, which is, doesn't need much explanation, but here you go, Chris. Cyclops Kitty.
Yes, this is a cat with one eye?
It's a little kitten. It's got one eye, didn't survive very long, but adorable.
It looks like a monkey.
Yeah, it's a little kitten, and he has one eye. And his sort of like mouth and nose doesn't have any fur around it. So Cyclops Kitty would be an adorable cryptid, I think. And last but not least, I don't know if you've heard of this artist, but Patricia Piccinini. Do you know who that is?
No.
So she's an Australian artist who does these like hyper-realistic, trippy, fleshy, human but not sculptures. And you may have seen that rat girl image online at some point, but not really looked into what it was. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, Chris, I'm going to send you a video on YouTube. You can take a look at it and describe it to the people. And I think if ever there was a cryptid inventor, like a god of the cryptids, it would be this artist.
Okay, wow. So she creates like hyper-realistic art that's seemingly somewhat based in reality. Some of these look like sloth humans or pig humans. Things like this. And she's certainly creating some nightmarish images.
I think they're kind of cute in a way also, though. They're sort of like human-animal mashups, but they look like... this is a terrible comparison. You know when you see like realistic sex dolls, they're all made of silicone and stuff?
Yeah.
They kind of look like
that. No, I don't.
But you know what I'm talking about. We've all watched like some kind of documentary about a man who's married a silicone sex doll and has her sit at the dinner table and speak to their children. This is a legitimate thing I'm actually referencing. But that's another
Don't
episode.
Listen to her, Sharon. You're beautiful.
Chris. But yeah, it's kind of like, it reminds me of those, but they're also like hybrids with other animals. So like Christ, like Chris said.
Bless you, my son. A bit of a Jerusalem syndrome there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm starting to feel like I should worship you and write a book. But yeah, they're like hyper-realistic sculptures, but they're kind of like silicone dolls, and they're a bit like mishmashed with animals. So there's a small child with like exaggerated sloth claws and things like that. And I think they would be amazing cryptids. So you can look it up and check it out. We'll put it on the Instagram, of course, and you can all vote for... Oh yeah, Chris, do you have any contenders for the potential cryptid throne here?
I do. I went in a slightly different route to yourself, though, where I went with not unusual creatures, but creatures that are unusual.
Okay.
The first one that I would say is a prime contender, and it's fairly obvious, is the giant squid, colossal squid.
Oh, hell yeah. Definitely. I mean, it kind of was a cryptid.
It was. I mean, people thought that it was
the Kraken
until like early 90s. I think it was first photographed by some Japanese scientists then. There'd been a few bodies.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
There'd been a few bodies washed up ashore prior to that, but they're all in various stages of decomposition, so they never had a living specimen that they could look at and say, this is a giant squid. So I think that's an obvious one.
Yes.
I like it a lot. But for ones that are just a bit more, you really could be a cryptid. Narwhals.
Yes.
Like, have a look at this dude. Look at his little beaky face.
You're right. Whenever I see this thing, I'm like, how is that real? Like, that's amazing.
It's like a unicorn dolphin.
I was just about to say unicorn dolphin. Oh, there's also a wolphin.
A wolphin?
It's like, don't quote me on this, but it's like a female dolphin and a male false killer whale. They mate and they create like this wolphin thing. It's like a black dolphin. It's kind of cool.
Oh.
That would be good. The onyx dolphin. That would be a good cryptid.
The next one is truly unusual. Probably my number one pick, though. It's an aquatic creature. Is the goblin shark.
I almost put that on my list, and I had like a GIF to send you of like its mouth extending out and biting a diver's arm.
It's so weird, isn't it? It's such a...
Yeah, that is... So you went for kind of unicorn-themed creatures.
Yeah, I think the thing that's cryptid-ish and weird about this thing is that its nose and its mouth are completely independent of each other. Like, the nose is going off in one direction and the mouth is going off in a different one.
Yeah. And the eye is almost human-y. Or, when dogs look too far back and they get the white part of their eyes exposed. Humanish. They look a bit like that in pictures, goblin sharks, and that creeps me out.
They do. And let's have a quick plug for the Shark Files podcast as well. If you're looking for a really excellent one-man podcast about shark attacks and kind of the history behind them, I really recommend their podcast.
It's so good. Please go and listen to it. Like, I love shark stuff. Like, I'm really scared of sharks, but I love learning about them. And, oh yeah, this is another thing if you want to get to know us. When I was a kid, I was really afraid of the toilet because I thought things like goblin sharks could come up them and get me.
They can.
No, they can't. I mean, rats and snakes can.
Yeah.
And I found that out the horrible way in Thailand, that they can definitely come out of toilets. But yeah, I was really scared of sharks and swimming pools and everything and toilets and anything, any body of water or anything with water in it. Not like a glass of water, but as a child I was scared of a lot of things.
Typically sharks, can't come through toilets.
Typically. Yeah, they definitely can't come through toilets.
The only exception to that, I do believe, is around Sweden.
Shut up! You're such a dick, Chris. It's okay now. I'm just scared of like ghosts, even though I don't think they're real. I'm still scared of them. Like, we have a basement in this house, and I'm scared to go in the basement. Like, I'm scared of ghosts, and Robin is scared of alien greys. If you want to hear Robin, he did a little debut while Chris was in the hospital on the Gösta Karlsson Engelholm UFO encounter. So you can go back and listen to that. But Robin's he's Swedish and he's scared of greys. And he also knows things about UFOs. So yeah, go listen.
He did get fingered by a grey.
Stop!
I mean, that was...
He may have.
That was literally his story.
Yeah, I know. Like, he tells a story at the end of that episode that you might want to listen to, so go back and listen to that.
I was on the bus one day and a grey came on and fingered my anus.
Chris, he's going to hear this. You've got to leave that in, 100%. That's funny.
And the final choice is not, I wouldn't say it's a cryptid, but it's more of a Pokemon. So,
well, none of these are cryptids, Chris. They're just creatures.
They're
silly man.
Could be cryptid creatures.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so
check out this dude. Mm-hmm. This is the Azomomonga.
Azomomonga. That's very exotic.
Look at his little face.
Oh, you know what's crazy? I almost actually put this one too. I almost put this in my list, and I actually thought, it's too much like a Pokemon, and I have Pokemon on my brain, and it's not a cryptid, but it's adorable. And I almost used this too. Oh, this is why we're friends.
Exactly.
It's so cute, everybody. Okay, let me describe it. It's a cross between a sugar glider, a little fat hamster, like a dwarf hamster, and I don't know, just it's so cute. Like, this would visit you and give you good luck. If it was a cryptid. It's so adorable.
I imagine it being a relatively terrible Pokemon, but one that everybody had because it was so cute.
Well, it's the one you catch like in the early stages of the game, like a Rattata.
Yeah.
And you train it and you're like, it's okay, but there's nothing special about it and it's adorable, but I'm going to have to let it go.
So that was an extremely long answer to the first Q&A. The second...
Yeah, but I love it. Like, it's an episode within itself.
Now, the second question comes from Linz Does Nails. They ask...
A lot of lenses.
Yeah. They ask, what is your pet case? Whether it's a conspiracy theory, unsolved murder, or disappearance.
My pet case was Beth Doe, and it's been solved recently. So you can go back and listen to that episode. But it's about a pregnant girl who was murdered in the 70s, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And it was unsolved for years and years and years. And recently, there's a lot of things to it. Like, there was a code, quote in air quotes, written on her hand. And there was a lot of other evidence that goes along with it. And it was unsolved for decades. And it's recently been solved. And we did an episode about it. And I talked to some detectives who are handling the case. And yeah, we have an episode on it. Beth Doe Solved. That's what it's called. So go back and listen to it. That's my pet case. And the Somerton Man, but we don't like to talk about him much.
No. Except
for our own reasons.
The 12 times we've talked about him so far.
In private, we've talked about him a lot. We will get that episode out, I promise.
I think for myself, it's Roswell. I think that's kind of where it all starts. I mean, for a lot of people, I love that case so much, and I'd like to tackle it one day, but it's quite a daunting task. There's a lot to it. We should tackle it
in parts. And by the way, everyone, Chris is basically Fox Mulder. I always say this. He's Fox Mulder, but like better looking.
I mean, thank you. I mean, I would agree. I am socially inept. I have a crippling porn addiction.
Fox Mulder.
Yeah, pretty much.
We call him Spooky Chris for this reason. He doesn't really have a porn addiction, by the way. Don't be creeped out.
You know, when I rewatched The X-Files, I rewatched it during the pandemic with my wife. I never realised, because it had been quite a few years since I watched it, just like how filthy it is. Like,
is it?
Well, Mulder's like addicted to porn and like phone sex lines and all of this stuff. And I love the thing where he gets like waterbed randomly and stuff like that. And it's
does he?
Yeah,
I don't remember
there's a lot of David Duchovny in Fox Mulder.
Yeah. Oh, wasn't he in like another series that kind of reflected his life too? Like
Californication?
Yes, apparently.
I haven't seen that. But,
me either, but I read like I saw a lot of articles at the time that said like, yeah, it's pretty much him.
Since we started the podcast, though, my pet case has been Bob's Balls alien abduction, also known as episode 1 of the podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with this case, and I'm trying to find out more and more bits of information. I would love to interview like a family member, something like that. It's just, I love this case so much. There's so many bits to it.
You know what? This is something I've been doing too. Ever since we've put out episodes on cases, I want to find people who are directly like connected to it and interview them. And I think that's something we will do in upcoming episodes. I think we're going to take a more journalistic approach to the cases that we research in the future. So,
okay, so the third question here, Septembrio, hi again, chimed in with, Will you ever let Chris do an all wrestling themed episode?
I don't have to let you. I asked you to do like all wrestling themed episodes. We've actually talked about this. Like ever since you told me about like the carnival talk, and you've told us so many things about wrestling. You've told us what a muffler is. Can you explain that to the people again in case they missed that episode?
A muffler is a particularly hefty wad of toilet paper, kitchen paper that one might wedge in your ass crack in order to prevent either sweat stains, foul smells leaking from that area during a wrestling match if you're a particularly heavy-set wrestler.
See, like, I love all this stuff, and we have actually done a Chris Benoit episode, which is, it's more of a true crime episode. It's a very sad and tragic, and it's a very serious episode. But I think the wrestling world is so intriguing, and Chris knows a lot about it. And I would love you to do a wrestling episode. And on the subject of, there may be something coming up very, very soon.
Yes, watch this space. I'm always just a little bit nervous about it, just because I don't want people thinking it's going to turn into like a full pro wrestling podcast or something.
It's definitely not. And I find it really interesting, and I think everybody else will too. There's some great, interesting, very dark stories in the wrestling world.
There really
and I think
is.
It's an industry that a lot of people don't really know about, like how tough it can be on a wrestler. Yep. And yeah, there's a lot of, it's got a foot in true crime too. So I think it's definitely, I'd love Chris to do like a little spin-off on DSR about wrestling specific episodes. So
I'd like to one day, you know, if we had one thing I really don't want to do. I don't mind doing a main episode every so often, but I don't want to clutter up the feed with a bunch of things. But
of course.
If we ever got to a point where, you know, there could be another avenue we could put something out from, I'll happily ramble for an hour about like what I thought of WrestleMania thing or whatever is the latest event.
Watch this space, everybody. Chris tells Linz about wrestling things.
Okay, and the fourth question here. Several listeners asked us this, actually. Are you guys going to do a Patreon anytime soon?
We did talk about it, but we were wondering, like, we know that people just use it as a way to donate monthly, but we wanted to make it something a bit more than that. Like, I wanted to put some, maybe like mini episodes and posts and maybe some blog stuff like that. So we wanted to make it worthwhile for people before we put it out. So we've been thinking about it. And maybe we'll do a little poll on the Instagram, and maybe we'll just start one, and you can pledge whatever you like per month. But when we do, we will definitely be putting like content, like extra content.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
We have actually set the wheels in motion for it already. But anybody who's listening to this, don't worry. This content isn't going on Patreon. This free feed, these 3 episodes are not going away. Anything that we did do on Patreon would be in addition to what we're already doing. So, Linz, I believe you had another question there.
So this question's from Michael, and it said, if you could have any supernatural experience, which would you choose and why?
Ooh.
I love this question.
I think I would like to have a old style Hammer horror style Dracula experience.
What do you want to get? That's like a kind of erotic experience. Like you're sleeping naked in your bed and he flies in and goes, chomp.
I mean, I was thinking about being more in sort of the Van Helsing role. You know, I'd be bursting in, you know, with my shirt sort of unbuttoned down to the navel with my
oh my god,
rippling muscles and a steak, and I would come out with a witty one-liner like, "Time to stake your bets, Dracula."
Well, like, what's your stake in this? Okay, that was very sort of Ned Flanders fever dream of you.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
So good. For me, I want to see a ghost. I just want to see a ghost. Like, I don't want to see one, but I want to see one. Oh, speaking of this, my mum actually has a story.
That would be cool. I think I know the story you're referring to, and I definitely think it's worth going on the podcast.
Yes, I've told you about it before, but yeah. Okay, so we have had like 2 or 3 extra ones in the time that we've been recording this. Okay, so the first one is, if you could go back in time to witness one historical event, what would it be? And that's from Jared. We love Jared, by the way.
Oh, hi, Jared.
Hi, Jared.
What do you think? What about you, Linz? You go first.
Maybe the JF Kennedy shooting.
Oh, Kennedy's shattered head hits concrete. Ride, Johnny, ride.
Ride, Johnny. Yeah, but not to make light of the situation. Maybe that's a one to keep an eye on that babushka, you know, get my eagle eyes on the scene, see what went down. That's just, you know, off the top of my head. Obviously, there's probably way more interesting historical events, but as an unprepared answer, let's go with that.
If I could go back in time and see one historical event, it would be the Pig War.
Sorry, the Pig War.
The Pig War. So this is an episode really all in itself, so maybe we'll go into it another time, but it's essentially a almost war between the UK and the Americas about some Canadian islands, and it is just absolutely ridiculous, and it's all over the shooting of a pig.
Oh, okay. I won't ask any further questions because I want you to tell me the story in an episode, but Pig War. And you've just broken a memory for me. You once told me about the Emu Wars.
Yes, yeah, the Emu Wars in Australia.
So I guess that's another event you could have witnessed.
Thousands died on both sides.
Oh, emus. So I had another personal question, and it said, with all of your travels, are you the Carmen Sandiego of the supernatural? To answer that simply, yes. Yes. Yes, I am. So yeah, that's all of the questions that I had.
Great. Well, that rounds up our Q&A and our feedback that we have, but I would like to tell you a story. I did promise you one at the beginning of today's episode.
Yes, please. Let me pour my drink first.
It was the 29th of August 2017, a simpler time before anyone thought of Corona as anything other than a mid-range cerveza, and I was living and working in Hokkaido, Japan as an English teacher at a high school.
Show off.
Everything was going great. I'd dropped a ton of weight recently, I'd proposed to my girlfriend and she'd said yes. I was enjoying my life in the far north of the Japanese island chain. I hadn't a care in the world. All the dangers of Japan were now just occupational hazards. Earthquakes, Japanese giant hornets, the ever-present threat of the NHK man collecting television fees. I was used to them all, and I took them all in my stride. One thing I'd never considered, though, was a dark presence, lurking just across the waters. A tiny, insular kingdom that was fixing to threaten smashing my idyllic life, North Korea. On the aforementioned 29th of August, I was at a small workshop conference for teachers, Japanese and foreign, and we were staying overnight. I'd been out the night before with my fellow attendees, and my stomach was full of crisp beer and even better food. Imagine my slothitude, yes, that is a word, in the early hours of the morning when my phone let out a shrill beeping sound. This was instantly recognizable as the emergency alert early warning system that the government uses to push out warnings to people in affected areas. Sleepily, I grabbed my phone, assuming that it was the usual 10-second early earthquake warning. I read the Japanese text once and took a second to process things. Was that the word for missile?
Oh my god, Chris, what the hell? Sorry to interrupt the storytelling. It's amazing, but what?
In my blurred state of consciousness, I threw the message into Google Translate to confirm my groggy translation. As I thought, the message read,
Missile launch. It seems that a missile was launched by North Korea. Please evacuate to a sturdy building or underground.
As I looked around, I realised I was not either in a sturdy building nor underground.
Oh my god.
I jumped out of bed and headed downstairs. I was in an unfamiliar training facility, but I remembered the way to the entrance, where surely I would find others who might be ahead of me in forming a plan. I ran through the hallways like a ping-pong ball that had escaped from the table, until I eventually bowled my way through the doors into the entrance. Collected there, I found absolutely nobody. Was nobody concerned that we were about to be nuked? I spied the old Japanese night shift attendant who was sipping coffee and looking mildly bewildered at the events that were being reported on the television next to him. "Good morning. Is everything okay?" I said, gesturing towards the TV.
Maybe?
I see. Is there anywhere we can go? Somewhere safe?
Yes?
And where is that, please?
Those seats.
Those seats.
Yes, those seats over there.
I looked over at the seats. They were just plastic waiting room seats, offering no protection or comfort from a bad smell, let alone a nuclear assault. I couldn't blame the man. When he started his shift hours earlier, the last thing he expected to be dealing with at the tail end was the threat of a missile strike. Not knowing my surroundings and unable to use my own initiative, I sat on the seats. Patiently waiting for a Terminator 2-style blast to come and erase us all from this plane of existence. After about 5 minutes, somebody else joined me, and I had to break the news to them that these plastic seats were our last form of defense against potential mutually assured destruction. I saw the same look that I must have had on my face 5 minutes prior, and then they, very slowly, sat down next to me, patiently awaiting the end times.
Chris!
Around
You didn't!
Around 10 minutes later, we received the all clear to our phones and a wave of relief washed over us. North Korea had launched a missile over Japan and it had landed in the sea off Hokkaido, the island on which we lived. Those of us who had woken up slinked back to our rooms and tried to get some sleep. When I returned to my town a day or so later, I knew I needed to be a little bit more prepared. So I prepped a go bag and kept it by the door. Best practice for earthquakes and missile strikes alike. And I discussed with my co-workers about possible evacuation plans. One of them suggested that the best place would be the school itself, and specifically the trash disposal room, as it was the only room in the building encased in thick concrete and other layers of reinforcement. Seemed like a good plan. So when on September 15th, 2017, the warnings once again rang out in the early hours, I was ready and I knew what to do. I sprang out of bed like a jack-in-the-box and rolled out the door, grabbing my go bag on the way. It was a short minute sprint to the school, and I quickly gained access to the fabled trash disposal room. It was cold, dark, and not where I would choose to endure a nuclear winter, but needs must. I found a light switch and viewed my postage stamp-sized kingdom. I'd never been in there before. Would it even support more people when they arrived? I mean, it would have to. I reached for my phone. My co-worker's suggestion had been correct. There was very thick concrete around the building, and I didn't even have a suggestion of a signal. I doubted that it'd be enough to stop a missile blast, but it was probably better than my prefab house. So once again, I took a seat and I waited. Thoughts going through my mind about my family and friends in Japan and around the world. Had my fiancée managed to get to safety in her town? I couldn't tell. As now, my phone was just a paperweight. I waited 15 minutes, roughly the amount of time before the all clear last time, and then I was faced with a conundrum. I was 99% sure that this was just another missile launch over Hokkaido to show North Korea's force to the world, rather than a direct attack, but I had no way of knowing. When I opened the door, would I be walking into a nuclear wasteland, or just a regular corridor with its rows and rows of shoe lockers? I decided to take a punt. I reasoned that I would have at least heard a blast or impact to some degree. It was the entrance to a rubbish chute after all, not an actual fallout shelter. I took a deep breath and cracked open the door, and in rushed in pure Japanese summer sunlight. I stepped out of my near-improvised bunker, into my regular old school, looking at the regular old hallway, the regular old doors, and the regular old posters on the wall, and I couldn't have been happier to see them all. My phone picked up signal, and soon I received the all-clear message. I walked gingerly back home, and as I approached my door, I saw my co-worker, leant against his door, having a cigarette, who exclaimed to me,
Oh, you were fast, Chris. I was going to go to the trash room, but I didn't, so I decided to have a smoke here instead.
Thanks, dude. Thanks.
Holy shit, Chris, I was the end of my seat. Like, honestly.
So, I mean, it's a very strange experience getting that 3-minute warning message. I mean, everyone's seen those old Cold War footage of, people advising you to duck and cover and find the nearest school desk to crawl under. But you never think that that's actually going to happen to you. Now, obviously, there's far worse things going on in the world right now when it comes to missiles and what's happening in Ukraine and so on. But I just wanted to share my experience of the time that I nearly thought I was about to be at ground zero of a nuclear attack.
That was amazing. And if that's a little segment from your book that you're writing right now, I really, really want to read it.
Great, because it's the only interesting bit.
That was amazing. Great writing. Like, honestly, I just stopped having input by the end because I was just listening to you. So really good job. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
And thank God you're alive. What would I do without you? Jesus.
I know. Linz. And Linz, if you take a look at this image I'm about to send you, this is me in that bunker.
In my nearest underground bunker. Thanks, Uncle Kim. And you look very, okay, I've never seen this picture. You look very sleepy.
I just jumped out of bed.
And you look like, for some reason, I'm getting Simple Plan vibes.
I'll roll with it. I'll go with it.
I'm a dick. I'm addicted to you. You look sleepy, and I'm not sure that's the greatest bunker. But if you're underground, yeah, sure.
I wasn't underground.
Oh my God, you might as well have stayed home. No wonder that guy was smoking outside of his door. He's like, I'll just watch it coming. It's probably going to be kind of pretty.
Like, there's no basements or anything, like there's no... it's all prefab houses in Japan. They go up. They go.
Well, you did write on this picture you've sent me, in my nearest underground bunker, and that was a lie because we can see the nighttime sky outside. So, Chris, you have been debunked.
No nighttime sky out there. That's the.
Well, there's a window, and you don't have a window when you're underground.
No. That's the trash chute.
Oh well, to be honest, what you could have done is slid down the trash chute. You probably would have been safer.
Right, so that was this bonus episode of Dystopian Simulation Radio. Did you have fun, Linz?
Honestly, I think the cryptid part was amazing. So thanks, It's Pip. Like, they're the best. That was an awesome question.
Thank you so much. And we are looking forward to seeing you back for our next episode, which will be a week today when you're receiving this episode. So the following Monday, we'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming. And it's my turn to tell you a very interesting story, Linz.
Any hints, Chris, about the next episode? The theme, the topic?
No.
No. Okay, that's fair enough. Classified. Classified as always.
Top secret. No, I will say there has been a couple of hints dropped in this episode about it, but I'm not gonna tell you any more than that. Just tune in a week today, and you'll find out.
And I have to add, my next upcoming full episode might have some first-hand interviews. So,
ooh,
yeah. So look forward to that. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you for the questions. Thanks for the follows and listens and everything. Like we really appreciate it, and the reviews are amazing.
Yes, thank you. Please keep them coming. It all helps the algorithm, helps other people to find our podcast. We are very much a growing podcast, and we do appreciate every single one of you that listens. So thank you so much, and I hope we'll see you again this time next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
The Bob's out of Bob. Bob's.
I recently scored. No, I'm not going to say. Fucking sick of editing ums.